A Palm Springs woman is behind bars after sheriff's deputies say she stabbed a man over 140 times using knives and a meat cleaver. On February 11th, officers say they found a man lying on his kitchen floor. They say they found 61-year-old Joan Burke lying in her bed in the home and her blood-stained nightgown. An autopsy shows the victim had a skull fracture caused by a blow from the meat cleaver. The victim's family says the victim was physically disabled. Burke is being held without bond.
In this chilling story of betrayal and greed, a successful woman finds her world unraveling when her husband files for divorce, seeking half of her carefully built fortune. But what begins as a legal battle quickly spirals into something far darker. In a desperate attempt to keep everything for herself, she chooses the ultimate betrayal, murder. What drove her to such a deadly decision? Discover the shocking truth behind a marriage where love gave way to lethal ambition. Before we begin this video, we would like to express our deepest sympathies to the family and friends who were severely affected by this horrible crime. We would also like to send condolences to Melvin's family and friends. Today's case takes us to Palm Springs. Palm Springs, Florida, is a small village located in Palm Beach County in southeastern Florida. It has a population of around 26,000 residents. While it's primarily a residential community, Palm Springs is known for its quiet suburban feel, proximity to beaches, and easy access to the vibrant cultural and entertainment options of nearby cities like West Palm Beach and Lake Worth. The village features parks and recreational facilities, offering a relaxed and family-friendly atmosphere. On February 11, 2022, authorities received a 911 call from a stepson reporting a man's death in the 4400 block of Anna Lane in Palm Springs. The officers were not prepared for what they were about to witness. When cops arrived following the incident, they discovered a 62-year-old man named Melvin Weller on the floor, covered in blood that covered more than half of the kitchen. Officers found blood spatters and streaks on the walls, kitchen cabinets, and counters. The kitchen sink contained a few knives and a meat cleaver. The kitchen floor was more than half covered in a puddle of blood. Blood was all over a 13-gallon garbage truck that had fallen to the ground at the dead man's feet. A broom, a dustpan, and a wet mop cleaner were among the cleaning supplies found on the floor close to the victim's body, according to the police. Everything close to the deceased had bloodstains on it. Bloodstains cast or somehow distributed on the walls, ceiling, counters, and cabinets, in addition to the several body injuries, clearly indicated a violent battle had taken place. Blood smears and spatters were discovered on the walls, kitchen cabinets, and counters in the same kitchen where the body was discovered, according to the police. The kitchen sink contained a meat cleaver and a few knives. During a safety check of the house, the 61-year-old wife of the deceased, Joan Burke, was found sleeping in the master bedroom. Burke did not speak, but she was aware and awake. In the same kitchen where the victim was found, the authorities also found blood streaks and spatters on the worktops, kitchen cabinets, and walls. There were many knives and a meat cleaver under the kitchen sink. Joan Burke, the deceased 61-year-old wife, was discovered sleeping in the master bedroom during a safety check of the home. Burke was conscious and awake, but she said nothing. According to the officers, she had cuts on both hands. Due to their theory, she sliced herself during the stabbing and her grip slipped on the murder weapon's handle due to the fresh blood from the wound. In regard to the authorities, Joan Burke suffered cuts on the palms of both hands. When someone stabs someone else, it is extremely typical for the perpetrator to have cuts on the palm of one or both hands. This is particularly true in cases where the victim has sustained several stab wounds, as Mr. Weller's death demonstrated. Burke was taken to a hospital for assessment while Weller was declared dead at the scene by medical personnel. Burke's bloodstained nightgown was discovered in a tied-up plastic bag on the kitchen countertop, according to the officers who carried out the search order. They added there was a cell phone in the bag as well. Although authorities are currently investigating, they believe it belonged to Weller. Weller sustained more than 140 stab wounds throughout his body, according to an autopsy. As reported by investigators, he also suffered a fracture to his skull from a hit to the right back of his head from a meat cleaver. According to court documents, 62-year-old Melvin Weller filed for divorce from his longtime spouse Joan Burke in late December. The couple had been dividing the assets they had while going through the divorce process. Melvin intended to retire to his birthplace of Jamaica following his divorce. According to the victim's family, he had a physical impairment that affected his ability to walk and his grip strength. Melvin and Joan were both natives of Jamaica. Although Joan had 2 children before having a child with Melvin, the pair did have a daughter. Weller's first child was the one the couple had together. Their relationship began after the pair met in Jamaica. After that, Melvin Weller relocated to the U.S. in quest of brighter prospects. When Weller's circumstances improved, he returned to Jamaica and married Joan Burke. The family soon migrated to the United States. Joan Burke, Melvin's wife, was employed as a nursing assistant, while Melvin worked in construction. Along with investing in real estate, the couple purchased homes in North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. Their marriage was marred by numerous instances of infidelity. Melvin had several extramarital affairs, and while he was cheating on her, he fathered 2 children by other people. Their marriage would fail as a result of this deed, which would lead to many conflicts and arguments. There was never peace in their house. Melvin was involved in an accident at work because he was a construction worker. He hoped it was a little problem and he would be fine, so he decided not to see a doctor. Sadly, he became immobile one day, and they had to visit the hospital. According to the doctor, he was limited to a wheelchair because of the accident he experienced at the building site. Melvin intended to retire to his Jamaican house he had built because his marriage was failing. The marriage started to fail once it was discovered that Weller had fathered 2 children outside of the union. There were many arguments in the house because Melvin wanted Joan's 41-year-old son to move out while the couple was residing there with him. Without telling Melvin, Joan went on to sell the homes in which they had invested. Melvin Weller filed for divorce in December 2021, intending to return to Jamaica following the divorce's settlement. They discussed how the assets should be divided at the outset of the divorce process. They would do a 50% split. A portion of his wife's nursing pension was also going to be allocated to Melvin. Joan didn't want to offer him anything. She just wanted her soon-to-be ex-husband to keep her belongings safe, even though doing so would lead to Melvin losing his life.
A Palm Springs woman remains in jail tonight, accused of killing her husband by stabbing him more than 140 times. Investigative reporter Terry Parker is live tonight and has more on a pending divorce happening before his murder.
That's right. The violent stabbing at the home of the long married couple happened right here behind me. The husband had just filed for divorce in late December, and I've learned that at stake were possibly millions of dollars in real estate and other assets that would have had to have been split right down the middle.
2 months after Melvin Weller filed for divorce, Palm Springs police arrived at his home February 11th to find Weller lying in a pool of blood that covered more than half of the kitchen floor, with multiple stab wounds and lacerations on his body. An autopsy revealing Weller had been stabbed 140 times all over his body, and he also had a skull fracture caused by a blow from a meat cleaver to the right rear of his head. Police say they found knives and a meat cleaver in the kitchen sink, a bloody nightgown, and a trash bag near the body. And in the bedroom, they discovered Weller's 61-year-old wife, Joan Burke, with cuts on her hands and not saying a word. Her pending divorce no longer an issue.
Out of words as to, exactly how I'm feeling. Absolutely, this did not need to happen. This could have been dealt with through the courts in the best possible way.
Attorney Nicole Hamill-Scott was handling divorce proceedings for Weller. She says one item of possible dispute, millions of dollars in real estate that under Florida law would have to be divided. She says she had just had a meeting outlining the terms with Burke's lawyer a week before the murder.
That could be, one of the reasons, Terry. As you know, under Florida statutes, whenever there are marital assets pursuant to the Florida law, those marital assets would need to be equitably divided between the parties. And certainly without getting too much into attorney-client privilege, the parties had substantial assets between themselves.
One of those assets, Burke's pension from her job as a nursing assistant. Half of that, too, would have had to go to her soon-to-be ex-husband.
We remember Mr. Weller coming into our office, a very pleasant, calm, loving man. It has taken my firm, by surprise. This is the last thing that we would have imagined would have happened by filing, a dissolution of marriage.
Hamill Scott tells me that Weller was completely willing to split everything equitably. He just wanted to go and retire back in his native Jamaica. However, she says they were investigating a possible quitclaim deed on one of their properties that Weller says he wasn't party to. So they were looking into that. Right now, police continue to investigate this violent stabbing murder, and Burke remains in the Palm Beach County Jail. Terry Parker, WPBF 25 News.
We express our condolences to the Melvin's family for their sad loss and hope that they find peace as they continue the healing process. This should not have occurred. If you would like to stay updated with this type of content, please don't forget to like and subscribe. See you on the following video.